Welcome to the Slumber Trail. Before we begin, take a moment to settle into a comfortable position, letting your body rest easily wherever you are listening. If your screen is still on, you may wish to lower the brightness now, or gently turn it face down, allowing the room to grow a little darker. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. This time is just for rest. Let's take a slow breath together. Breathe in through your nose, slowly, gently, and then breathe out, softly, letting the breath fall away on its own. Once more, a quiet breath in, and an easy breath out. If it feels comfortable, allow your breathing to return to its natural rhythm, unforced and calm. With each breath, feel your shoulders soften, your jaw loosen, and the weight of the day begin to drift away. You don't need to stay awake for this story. If sleep comes early, that's perfectly fine. Simply listen, or let the words fade into the background as we begin tonight's gentle walk. John wakes to his last morning in Tennessee. The thought brings mixed emotions, pride at having walked the entire state, but also a touch of sadness at leaving. Tennessee has been good to him. 300 miles of beautiful mountains, kind trail angels, spectacular boards, the rhythm of steady walking through spring. But Virginia waits, the longest state, over 500 miles of trail, more 80 miles than any other state. Virginia will be a test of endurance, of consistency, of the ability to simply keep walking day after day through similar terrain. He packs his gear and starts north with several other hikers, everyone eager to reach Damascus. The trail descends gradually through the morning, losing elevation as it approaches the town. The forest is fully green now, thick with late spring growth. Birds sing their territorial songs. The air is warm, hinting at the summer heat to come. Around mid-morning, the trail crosses a road and suddenly John is walking through a residential area. Houses with yards, cars parked in driveways. The jarring transition from wilderness to civilization. Damascus appears ahead, a small town nestled in the valley, the trail running right down its main street. John follows the white blazes through town, past the outfitters and restaurants and hostels that cater to the constant stream of hikers. Damascus is known as Trail Town, USA, the most hiker-friendly town on the entire Appalachian Trail. Every year they host Trail Days, a festival celebrating through hikers. The whole town embraces the trail and those who walk it. He stops at the first hostel he sees, The Place, a famous hiker hostel run by the local Methodist church. It's donation-based, offering bunks and showers and a place to rest. The hostel is already busy with hikers, gear spread everywhere, people coming and going. John secures a bunk and immediately heads for the shower. The hot water is glorious after several days on the trail. He scrubs away the dirt and sweat, standing under the spray longer than necessary, enjoying the luxury of unlimited hot water. Clean and wearing his less dirty town clothes, John walks to a restaurant and orders an enormous breakfast. The food arrives and he eats with focused intensity. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, hash browns, toast, orange juice, coffee. His body craves calories and town food provides them in abundance. Sarah appears while he's eating, fresh from her own shower, looking happy and refreshed. "I'm taking 2 zeros, she announces. "Maybe 3. My body is begging for rest." I'm thinking 1-0, then back out, John says, but I'll see how I feel tomorrow. They spend the afternoon exploring Damascus. It's larger than Hot Springs, with more options for resupplying gear. John visits the outfitter to replace his worn-out socks and to buy new insoles for his boots. 6 weeks of walking has compressed the insoles to nearly nothing, and his feet are feeling it. He resupplies at the grocery store, buying food for the next section. Virginia is long, but there are towns along the way for resupply. He only needs 5 or 6 days of food to reach the next stop. More of the usual: instant oatmeal, instant coffee, freeze-dried dinners, bars, trail mix, candy bars. That evening, a large group of hikers gathers at a local pizza place for dinner. The restaurant is packed with through hikers, all of them celebrating their arrival in Damascus, their completion of Tennessee, their approach to Virginia. John sits with his usual trail family: Sarah, Fast Eddie, Songbird, Weatherman, making a rare appearance, and several others whose faces have become familiar over the past 6 weeks. The conversation flows easily, trail talk, but also excitement about Virginia. People share what they've heard: the long ridge walks, the beautiful valleys, the towns with good food, the Dragon's Tooth, a famous rock scramble, McAfee Knob, one of the most photographed spots on the entire trail. The halfway point, somewhere in central Virginia, where hikers celebrate being halfway to Maine. Halfway, Eddie says, his voice filled with wonder. We could actually be halfway in a few weeks. The concept is both encouraging and daunting. Halfway means they've proven they can do this, but it also means they have to do it all again. The same distance they've already walked all over again before reaching Katahdin. John doesn't let himself think too far ahead. There's just tomorrow, just the next section, just the next state. Virginia is long, but it's also just more trail, more mountains to climb, more miles to walk, more white blazes to follow. He knows how to do this now. His body knows, his mind knows. He just has to keep doing it. After dinner, John walks through Damascus in the evening light. The town is beautiful, nestled in its valley, the mountains rising on all sides. The trail will climb out of here tomorrow, ascending back into the wilderness. But tonight, he's here in civilization, enjoying the brief respite. He thinks about how far he's come. Not just the 400 miles from Springer Mountain, but the internal distance. The person who started this journey 6 weeks ago feels like a stranger now. That person was nervous, uncertain, carrying too much physical and emotional weight. This person, the one walking through Damascus, is leaner, stronger, more confident, more himself somehow. As if the trail has stripped away everything unnecessary, revealed the essential self underneath. Back at the hostel, John organizes his resupply, packing food into his bear canister and stuffed sacks. His pack will be heavy again tomorrow, but he's used to it now. The weight is just part of the equation, accepted rather than resented. He lies in his bunk that evening, listening to the sounds of the hostel. Showers running, washing machines churning, hikers talking and laughing. Tomorrow he'll leave this behind, return to the trail, cross into Virginia. A new state, new challenges, but the same basic rhythm: walk, eat, sleep, repeat. Sleep comes easily despite the noise. His body is tired, ready to rest. Tomorrow will bring more trail, but tonight there's just this: a comfortable bunk, a full belly, clean clothes, the company of fellow hikers. John wakes early on his 0 day, Around him, other hikers are still sleeping, but his internal clock has him awake by 6, even when he doesn't need to hike. He lies in his bunk for a while, enjoying the luxury of not having to immediately pack up and start walking. Eventually, he gets up and walks to a cafe for breakfast. Real eggs, real bacon, real coffee. He eats slowly, reading a book he picked up at the hostel's free library. The pleasure of sitting, of not moving, of letting his body rest completely. The day passes quietly. John washes all his gear in the hostel's washing machine. He reorganizes his pack, making sure everything is accessible and efficient. He walks to the outfitter again and buys a new headlamp. His old one is dimming. The battery's no longer holding a charge as well. In the afternoon, he finds a quiet spot by the creek that runs through town and just sits, watching the water flow, listening to the sounds of the town and the forest mix together, not thinking about much, just being present to this moment of rest. Sarah finds him there in the late afternoon. She sits beside him on the rocks, dangling her feet in the cool water. "You heading out tomorrow?" she asks. "Yeah. You?" "Day after. Need the extra rest." They sit in comfortable silence. After 6 weeks on the trail, they've become good friends in that particular trailway, knowing each other deeply through shared experience, but knowing little about each other's lives off the trail. It's enough. Maybe it's better. Their friendship exists purely in this context, uncomplicated by the usual baggage of off-trail relationships. "Virginia feels big," Sarah says after a while. "Like, really big." "It is big," John agrees. "But we just walk it the same way we walked everything else, one day at a time." "One day at a time," she echoes. That evening, John goes to bed early, ready to return to the trail. His body feels rested. His gear is clean and organized. His pack is loaded with fresh supplies. He's ready for Virginia, for the long miles ahead, for whatever challenges and beauty the longest state will bring. He thinks about Damascus, about this trail town that has welcomed him and thousands of other hikers over the years. He thinks about Tennessee, now complete, 4 states down: Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and the small piece of Virginia that technically starts just north of Damascus. Only 10 states to go. The journey is far from over, but it's also well begun. Over a third of the miles completed. The trail has tested him and found him capable. He's proven to himself that he can do this. Tomorrow, Virginia truly begins. Tomorrow, a new chapter. Tomorrow, the trail continues north. But for now, just rest. Just this moment. Just a peaceful ending of 0 day in Damascus and the quiet anticipation of miles to come. John closes his eyes and lets sleep take him, his body grateful for the rest, his spirit ready for the journey to continue. The trail waits. It always waits, patient and eternal, leading north through Virginia's long miles towards states beyond, and eventually, impossibly, toward Maine. One day at a time, one state at a time, one step at a time, the journey continues. John leaves Damascus in the cool morning, his pack heavy with fresh supplies. The trail climbs immediately out of town, a steep ascent that reminds his rested legs what the work ahead entails. But his body remembers quickly, finds its rhythm, settles into the familiar motion of climbing. The morning is beautiful, clear skies, temperatures in the 60s, a light breeze keeping him cool despite the effort of climbing. Virginia greets him with perfect hiking weather. Around mid-morning, John crosses an official marker, Virginia, Tennessee state line. He stops, drops his pack, takes the obligatory photo. 4 states complete. Virginia beginning. He's in the longest state now, committed to over 500 miles of trail before crossing into West Virginia. The number is intimidating if he thinks about it too much. 500 miles. 25 to 30 days of walking, a full month in one state. So he doesn't think about it. He thinks about today, about reaching tonight's shelter, about the next white blaze. The miles will accumulate whether he worries about them or not. The trail in southern Virginia is beautiful. Rolling mountains covered in thick forest, streams running clear and cold, occasional views opening up through gaps in the trees. John settles into his walking meditation, his mind quiet, his body doing what it knows how to do. He's alone on the trail most of the morning. The bubble of hikers has spread out again after Damascus, everyone moving at their own pace. Some pushed ahead, eager to make big miles. Others took extra zeros at rest in tired bodies. The trail family is scattered now, though John knows he'll see familiar faces again. He always does. Around noon, he stops at Partnership Shelter for lunch. This shelter is famous. It has running water, a shower, even a phone for calling out. It's maintained by a local church partnership, hence the name. Several section hikers are there enjoying the amenities, but John doesn't linger long. He eats his lunch, refills his water bottles at the spigot, and continues north. The afternoon brings more steady walking through Virginia forest. The terrain here is different from Tennessee. Less dramatic perhaps, but consistently beautiful. The mountains are older, more weathered, covered in a mature forest that feels ancient and peaceful. John sees his first deer of Virginia, a buck with small antlers, standing beside the trail. They regard each other for a long moment. The deer seems unconcerned, probably used to hikers passing through. Finally, it turns and walks calmly into the forest, unhurried, at home in this place in a way John can only aspire to. Late afternoon, John reaches Trimpey Shelter. It's a simple shelter, nothing special, but it's well maintained and has a good water source nearby. He's the first hiker to arrive, giving him his choice of sleeping spots. He claims a platform on the end, sets up his sleeping area, then goes to filter water. The spring is a short walk from the shelter, down a blue-blazed side trail. The water flows clear and cold from a pipe set into the hillside. John fills his bottles, treating each one with his filter, watching the clear water flow through. He drinks deeply, his body always craving water after a day of walking. Back at the shelter, he cooks dinner and eats while watching the light fade. The forest grows dark early this time of year, the thick canopy blocking the sunset, but the air remains warm, pleasant. John sits on the edge of the sleeping platform, his feet dangling, just being present to the evening. Other hikers arrive as darkness approaches. A young couple John hasn't seen before, an older solo hiker, who introduces himself as Map Man, carrying detailed maps of every section despite the well-marked trail. And finally, just as full dark sets in, Weatherman appears like a ghost from the darkness, moving with his usual silent efficiency. "John," Weatherman says with a nod, the most words he typically offers. "Weatherman," John replies. They don't need more conversation than that. The acknowledgement of shared journey is enough. The shelter settles into evening routines. Food bags hung on the bare cables. Sleeping bags fluffed and arranged. The quiet conversations of people preparing for sleep. John lies in his sleeping bag, looking out at the darkness beyond the shelter, listening to the night sounds of Virginia forest. His first day in Virginia complete. Just another day of walking, nothing extraordinary, nothing particularly challenging, but also beautiful in its simplicity. Good weather, good trail, good shelter. The basic elements of a successful trail day. He thinks about the miles ahead, 500 miles of Virginia. It seems like a lot, but he's walked over 400 already. He knows how to do this. His body knows. His mind knows. Just keep walking, one day after another, letting the miles accumulate slowly but steadily. Virginia has a reputation for being monotonous. The Virginia blues, some hikers call it. Too much of the same, mile after mile of similar terrain. But John isn't worried about that. He's learned to find peace in repetition, meditation in the routine. The green tunnel doesn't bore him. It quiets him, allows his mind to rest in the simplicity. Sleep comes easily, his body tired from the day's miles, ready to rest and recover for tomorrow. The forest breathes around the shelter. An owl calls from somewhere distant. The night is peaceful, familiar, safe. Tomorrow will bring more miles, more Virginia Trail, more mountains to climb, more forest to walk through. The slow progression north continuing, always continuing. But tonight there is just this, a shelter in the Virginia mountains, the company of fellow hikers, the deep satisfaction of another day walked. The first day of Virginia, many more to come. John's breathing slows and deepens. His consciousness drifts toward sleep, toward dreams of trails and forests and endless miles leading north. The trail continues. He continues with it. One day, 1 mile, one step at a time. Virginia has begun, the long journey through the longest state. But it's just more trail, just more walking, and walking is what he does now. It's who he is. The journey continues, always continues, north through Virginia, toward West Virginia, toward Pennsylvania, toward the states beyond, toward summer, toward autumn, toward that distant mountain in Maine. But he's not thinking about all of that tonight. Tonight there's just this moment, this breath, this peaceful rest after a day well walked. The trail continues, John continues with it, and that's enough. John wakes to a cool morning with fog drifting through the shelter. The mist is thick, reducing visibility to maybe 20 feet. Other hikers are stirring slowly, reluctant to leave the warmth of their sleeping bags for the damp coolness outside. He packs his gear and starts walking by 7, climbing into the fog. The trail ascends steadily through the morning, gaining elevation toward the Grayson Highlands, a high elevation section known for its open balds and wild ponies. John has been looking forward to this section. It's supposed to be one of the most beautiful areas in all of Virginia. The fog follows him up the mountain, creating a ghostly atmosphere. Trees emerge from the white and disappear behind. The trail appears just ahead, leading on into mystery. But John doesn't mind. He's learned that fog has its own beauty, its own peaceful quality. Around mid-morning, the forest begins to thin. The trees become shorter, more gnarled, shaped by constant wind. And then suddenly the trail emerges from the forest onto open highland. Grassy balds stretching along the ridge top, rocky outcrops breaking through the grass, the fog still thick but beginning to show signs of lifting. The Grayson Highlands. John has arrived. Even in fog, the landscape is striking. The openness after miles of enclosed forest trail, the wind constant and cool, the grass green and thick, dotted with wildflowers, rocky formations creating natural sculptures against the white sky. John walks slowly across the boards, not wanting to rush despite the limited visibility. The trail is well marked with posts where the white blazes can't be painted on trees. He follows them across the highland, climbing over rock formations, traversing open meadows. And then he sees them, the wild ponies, a small herd grazing on the bald, maybe 5 or 6 animals, their shaggy coats thick and unkempt, their descendants of horses released decades ago, now living wild in the highlands. They ignore John completely, used to hikers passing through their territory. John stops, enchanted. He's seen photos of the Grayson ponies, but seeing them in person is different. They're smaller than regular horses, stocky and sturdy, perfectly adapted to this high, windy environment. One pony lifts its head to look at him briefly, then returns to grazing completely unimpressed. He sits on a rock near the herd, eating a snack, just watching them. Their peaceful existence, their unhurried grazing, their complete comfort in this wild place. There's something deeply satisfying about seeing animals thriving in wilderness, living exactly as they're meant to live. Around noon, the fog begins to lift, not clearing completely, but thinning enough that views start to appear. John can see across valleys to distant ridges, can see the scale of the highlands stretching for miles. The wind picks up as the fog thins, cool and constant. He continues across the bolds, the trail following the ridgeline. More ponies appear, another small herd, and then a solitary animal standing on a rocky outcrop, like it's posing for photographs. John takes pictures, though he knows they won't capture the feeling of this place, the wildness and beauty and openness. Other hikers are on the bolds too, scattered across the landscape, everyone moving slowly, everyone appreciating this section. John sees Sarah in the distance, recognizes her bright blue pack. He waves and she waves back, but they don't converge, each maintaining their own experience of this place. The afternoon brings more highland walking. The trail traverses just below the highest peaks, offering views in all directions when the fog allows. John passes through sections of stunted forest, gnarled trees twisted by wind, then emerges onto more open bolds. The landscape is varied, constantly interesting, never monotonous. Around 4 in the evening, John reaches Thomas Knob Shelter, a stone structure perched on the highland. It's one of the most scenic shelter locations on the entire trail, open views in all directions, ponies grazing nearby, the wind constant and cool. Several hikers are already at the shelter, including Fast Eddie, who John hasn't seen in several days. "This place is incredible," Eddie says when John arrives. "I could stay here for days." John agrees. The shelter is beautiful, the setting spectacular, but there's also a wildness to it, an exposure. The wind never stops. There's no protection if weather comes in. The nearest water source requires a steep descent down the mountain. More hikers arrive as evening approaches. The shelter fills quickly. Everyone wants to stay at Thomas Knob to experience sunrise from the highlands. Sarah arrives, looking wind-blown but happy. Songbird appears, humming despite her obvious tiredness. A few section hikers John doesn't recognize. The evening is cold. The sun disappears behind western mountains and the temperature drops rapidly. John pulls on all his warm layers. Fleece, down jacket, warm hat, gloves. Other hikers are doing the same, everyone bundled against the wind and cold, but the sunset is spectacular. The western sky turns orange and pink and purple, the clouds reflecting the colors, the landscape below falling into shadow. The ponies graze nearby, silhouetted against the colorful sky. The wind carries the sound of distant streams, of grass rustling, of the mountain breathing. John sits on a rock outside the shelter, wrapped in his sleeping bag, watching the light fade. This is one of those moments, one of those perfect trail moments that he'll remember forever. The beauty, the wildness, the sense of being somewhere truly special. As darkness falls, the stars emerge. Brilliant and countless, the Milky Way a river of light across the sky. At this elevation, far from any light pollution, the sky is overwhelming in its vastness. John lies on his back on the rock, looking up, trying to comprehend the distances, the time scales, the sheer improbability of his existence as a conscious being in this vast universe. It's too much to hold, so he just experiences it, just lies on cold rock on a mountain in Virginia, looking at stars, feeling small and significant at the same time. Eventually, the cold drives him inside the shelter. It's crowded, every space filled, but warmer than outside with all the body heat. John crawls into his sleeping bag and wraps it around himself completely, just his face exposed. The shelter is quiet except for the wind outside and the occasional murmur of conversation. Everyone is tired, awed by the day, ready for sleep. John lies in his sleeping bag, thinking about the Grayson Highlands, about the wild ponies, about the spectacular sunset and the stars. This is why people hike, he thinks, not just for the physical challenge or the accomplishment, but for days like this, for places like this, for moments of such beauty that they expand the heart, that remind you why being alive is precious. Sleep comes slowly, the cold and wind making rest more difficult than usual. But eventually exhaustion wins, and John drifts off, surrounded by fellow hikers, all of them resting in this wild, high place, all of them walking their own journeys north. The wind blows across the highlands, the ponies graze in darkness, the stars wheel slowly overhead. The mountains stand patient and eternal, and John sleeps, grateful for this day, for this place, for this journey that keeps offering moments of grace and beauty and connection to something larger than himself. Tomorrow will bring descent from the highlands, return to the forest, more miles through Virginia. But tonight there is just this, a stone shelter on a wind-swept highland, the memory of wild ponies and spectacular views, and the deep satisfaction of having walked through another beautiful section of trail, the Grayson Highlands, a place of wildness and beauty, a place he'll carry with him for the rest of his journey, for the rest of his life. The trail continues, always continues, north through Virginia toward the states beyond, and John continues with it, one step, one day, one beautiful moment at a time. John wakes cold and stiff in Thomas Knob shelter. The night was chilly, the wind never stopping, and even in his sleeping bag, he felt the cold seeping in. Around him, other hikers are slow to emerge from their sleeping bags, everyone reluctant to face the cold morning. But eventually, the necessity of continuing drives everyone up and moving. John packs his gear with numb fingers, eats a quick cold breakfast, and starts descending from the highlands. The trail drops steeply, losing the elevation he gained yesterday, returning to the enclosed forest. The descent warms him quickly. His body generates heat with the effort of navigating the steep, rocky trail. By the time he reaches the forest proper, he's shed his warm layers down to a long-sleeve shirt. The next several days blur together in the best way. Wake, pack, walk, eat, walk, sleep. The routine is comforting, requires no thought, allows John's mind to rest in the simplicity. The miles accumulate steadily. 15 miles one day, 18 the next, 16 after that, Virginia's long miles slowly being consumed, one day at a time. The terrain is consistent, rolling mountains, mature forest, streams crossing the trail every few miles, beautiful but not dramatic, peaceful rather than challenging. The kind of hiking where you can fall into a rhythm and just walk for hours without conscious thought. John sees the trail family periodically, Sarah for a few days, their paces matching, hiking together in comfortable silence or easy conversation. Fast Eddie, pushing past one afternoon, intent on bigger miles. Weatherman appearing at a shelter one evening, then gone again by morning. The fluid community continues, people coming together and spreading apart like a living organism. Around day 10 into Virginia, John begins approaching one of the trail's most famous landmarks, McAfee Knob. It's the most photographed spot on the entire Appalachian Trail, a rocky outcrop jutting out over the valley, offering spectacular views. John has seen pictures of it for years, long before he decided to thru hike. Now he's about to be there himself. The day is perfect for it. Clear skies, warm temperatures, good visibility. John climbs steadily through the morning, knowing McAfee Knob is just a few miles ahead. His anticipation builds. After weeks of mostly enclosed forest trail, the promise of a spectacular view is exciting. Around noon, the trail reaches the knob, and John sees why it's so famous. The rock outcrop extends like a diving board over the valley, nothing but air beyond it. The views are panoramic, mountains and valleys stretching for miles. Farms in the valley below, the town of Roanoke, visible in the distance. The knob is crowded. Day hikers, section hikers, and through hikers all gathered. Everyone taking photos, everyone wanting the classic shot of themselves on the rock with the valley behind. John waits his turn, then walks out onto the outcrop. The exposure is intense. The rock juts out over a sheer drop, hundreds of feet of air below, but the rock is solid, wide, safe if you're careful. John sits on the edge, legs dangling over the void, looking out at the view. Sarah appears beside him. Pretty spectacular, right? Worth the hype, John agrees. They sit together on the rock, eating lunch, watching other hikers take their photos. A family with young children, the parents holding tight to their kids near the edge. A solo hiker asking strangers to take their photo. A couple taking selfies, trying to capture the view behind them. John takes his own photos, though he knows they won't do justice to being here. Photos never capture the feeling. The wind, the exposure, the vast scale of the landscape. The satisfaction of having walked here from Georgia. After an hour, John reluctantly continues. The trail descends from McAfee Knob toward the valley, losing elevation rapidly. His knees absorb the downhill impact, his poles working overtime to provide stability. That evening, he reaches Catawba Mountain Shelter. It's a nice shelter with a spectacular view to the west. Positioned to catch the sunset, several hikers are already there, and more arrive throughout the afternoon. As evening approaches, the group gathers outside to watch the sun set over the mountains. The sky turns orange and pink, the same colors John has watched dozens of times now from dozens of different mountains. But it never gets old. Each sunset is unique, each one beautiful in its own way. The conversation turns to progress, to miles walked. Someone calculates that they've been on the trail for nearly 2 months. 2 months of daily walking, of living outside, of carrying everything they need on their backs. How many miles have we done? Someone asks. People pull out guidebooks, do rough math. Somewhere around 600 miles, give or take. 600 miles from Springer Mountain. Almost a third of the trail complete. John tries to comprehend it. 600 miles. He's walked 600 miles through the mountains. His body has carried him 600 miles north. The number is staggering and also somehow underwhelming. It's just the accumulation of daily walking, of steps added to steps added to steps. The halfway point is coming up, Sarah says. Maybe 3 more weeks, in central Virginia somewhere. Halfway, the psychological milestone. Over 1,000 miles walked, over 1,000 miles still to go. The balance point of the journey. John isn't sure how he feels about approaching halfway. Part of him is proud, proving he can do this, that he's actually walking to Maine. Part of him is daunted, realizing he has to do all of this again, the same distance already walked, before reaching Katahdin. But mostly he's just present. Halfway is weeks away. There's only today, only this evening, only this shelter with this sunset and this company. The future will arrive when it arrives. Until then, there's just the present moment. The conversation's quiet as darkness falls. People retreat to the shelter, to their sleeping bags, to rest. John lies on his back, looking at the shelter ceiling, thinking about McAfee Knob, about the 600 miles behind him, about the miles ahead. Virginia is long, but he's making progress, day by day, mile by mile. The longest state is being walked. Eventually he'll emerge on the other side, cross into West Virginia, continue north. But that's for future John to worry about. Present John is here, in this shelter, tired but satisfied, having walked another good day. Sleep comes easily. His body knows this rest now, craves it, uses it efficiently to repair and strengthen. Tomorrow will bring more miles, more Virginia forest, more trail leading north. But tonight there's just this peaceful rest. The forest breathes around the shelter. The night sounds begin in their familiar chorus. The stars appear overhead, brilliant in the clear sky. And John sleeps content with his progress, grateful for spectacular views and good trail days, ready to continue this long walk through Virginia toward whatever waits beyond. One day at a time, 1 mile at a time, 1 step at a time. The trail continues. John continues with it, and slowly, steadily, the miles accumulate. The journey progresses. The distance to Maine gradually shrinks, halfway approaching, but also, right here, right now, exactly where he needs to be, walking north, always north, toward summer, toward the states beyond Virginia, toward that distant goal that no longer feels quite so impossible. The days continue their steady rhythm. John walks through Virginia forest, over Virginia mountains, past Virginia streams. The scenery is beautiful but consistent, exactly what people mean when they talk about the Virginia blues. Not that Virginia is boring, but that it requires mental endurance, the ability to keep walking day after day through similar terrain without dramatic landmarks to break up the monotony. But John doesn't experience it as monotony. He settled so deeply into trail life that the routine itself is satisfying. The simple pattern of wake, walk, eat, sleep, the way his body knows what to do without conscious thought, the quiet of his mind, free from the constant anxiety and planning that characterized his old life. He's been on the trail for almost 2 months now, 8 weeks of daily walking. His body has transformed completely. Lean muscle, tough feet, efficient stride. But the bigger changes are internal. The person walking through Virginia is fundamentally different from the person who started at Springer Mountain. Not better or worse, just different, more essential, more himself. Around mid-June, John begins approaching another famous Virginia landmark, the Dragon's Tooth. It's a large rock formation jutting up from the mountain, requiring some scrambling to reach the top. The approach is supposedly challenging, a rock scramble rather than typical trail hiking. The day is hot. Summer has arrived in Virginia, bringing temperatures in the 80s and humidity that makes the air feel thick. John is soaked with sweat within the first hour of walking, his shirt clinging to his back, salt crusting on his skin. The trail climbs steadily through the morning, gaining elevation toward the Dragon's Tooth. Around midday, the trail becomes rockier, steeper, and then John reaches the scramble, a section requiring hands and feet, careful movement over large boulders, attention to balance and footing. He takes his time, testing each handhold, placing each foot carefully. The rock is solid, the scramble challenging but not dangerous if you're careful. His pack makes the movement awkward, the weight pulling him backward, but he's learned to adjust his balance, to move deliberately, and then he reaches the top. The Dragon's Tooth itself, a tall rock formation like a giant tooth jutting up from the mountain. The rock is smooth and steep, but there are good handholds, and John climbs carefully to the summit. The view from the top is spectacular, mountains stretching away in all directions, the valleys below green and hazy in the summer heat. Other hikers are on the tooth, everyone taking photos, everyone carefully navigating the exposed rock. John finds a spot and sits, catching his breath, drinking water, cooling down. The breeze at the top helps, evaporating sweat, providing relief from the heat. He eats lunch while looking out at the view, feeling satisfied with the climb, with reaching this landmark. Sarah appears while he's sitting there, scrambling up the final section of rock. "That was harder than I expected," she says, slightly breathless. "But worth it," John says. "Always worth it," she agrees. They sit together on the rock, not talking much, just enjoying the view and the breeze and the satisfaction of having reached the tooth. Other hikers come and go, a constant stream of people climbing up, taking photos, climbing down. After 30 minutes, John begins the descent. Going down is trickier than going up, requiring even more care with foot placement. But he makes it down safely, then continues north on the trail beyond. The afternoon is brutally hot. The forest provides some shade, but the humidity is oppressive. John stops frequently to drink water, to rest in shade, to let his body cool. Heat is a new challenge. The trail has been cool or mild for most of his journey, but summer in Virginia is teaching him about hiking in high temperatures. He reaches a stream around 3 in the afternoon and stops for an extended break. Takes off his boots and socks, wades into the cool water, sits on a rock with his feet submerged. The cold water is blissful, bringing his body temperature down, providing relief from the relentless heat. Other hikers are at the stream doing the same thing. Everyone moving slowly in the heat. Everyone grateful for the cold water. The conversation is minimal. The heat saps energy even for talking. Everyone just sits, cooling off, gathering strength for the remaining afternoon miles. John eventually forces himself to continue, puts his damp socks and boots back on, shoulders his pack, starts walking again. The evening miles are slower, harder. The heat has drained him, made every step feel heavier. Around 7 in the evening, he reaches Laurel Creek Shelter. It's been a shorter day than usual, only 14 miles, but the heat made it feel like 20. He's exhausted, overheated, ready to stop. The shelter is crowded with hikers who had the same idea, stopping early to avoid hiking in peak heat. John finds a spot, sets up his sleeping area, then just lies down. No energy for cooking yet, just rest. As evening progresses and the temperature drops slightly, energy returns. John cooks dinner, eats, hangs his food bag. The routine continues even when energy is low. The shelter fills with quiet conversation, everyone comparing notes on the heat, on the dragon's tooth, on how to manage hot weather hiking. Start earlier, someone suggests, like 4 or 5 in the morning. Do most of your miles before the heat. Take a siesta in the afternoon, hike morning and evening, rest during the hottest hours. Drink more water, always be drinking water. The advice circulates, shared wisdom from hikers learning to adapt to summer conditions. Virginia in June is hot. Virginia in July will be hotter. Everyone is adjusting their strategies, learning what works for their bodies. As darkness falls, the temperature finally becomes pleasant. The oppressive heat gives way to a mild evening, cool enough to be comfortable. John lies in his sleeping bag, on top of it, not inside, still too warm for that, and listens to the night sounds. He thinks about the dragon's tooth, about the challenging scramble, about reaching the top. Another landmark checked off, another famous section completed. The trail is full of these moments. Famous rocks, spectacular views, challenging sections that hikers talk about for years. But he also thinks about the heat, about the new challenge that summer brings. The trail keeps testing him in different ways. First, the difficulty of just walking with a heavy pack. Then the cold and wet of early spring. Then the long climbs of the Smokies. Now the heat of Virginia summer. Each challenge different, each requiring adaptation, and he keeps adapting. His body learns what's needed, his mind adjusts to the conditions. He continues forward, day by day, learning as he goes. Sleep comes despite the heat. His body is tired enough that rest happens regardless of conditions. Tomorrow he'll try starting earlier, avoiding the worst of the midday heat. He'll drink more water, take longer breaks, adjust his routine for summer. The trail continues. The challenges change, but the forward motion remains constant. North through Virginia, through the heat, through the miles, one day at a time. The forest breathes hot, humid air. The insects sing their summer songs. The night is warm and alive with sound. And John sleeps, adapting and learning and continuing, always continuing north through Virginia's long, hot miles, toward the halfway point, toward the states beyond, toward that goal in Maine that feels a little closer with each passing day. The journey continues, the transformation continues, and John continues with it, one step, one challenge, one adaptation at a time. John wakes before dawn, implementing the new strategy. If the days are going to be hot, he'll do his miles in the cool morning hours. Around him, other hikers have had the same idea. Headlamps flicker in the darkness as people pack up, eating quick breakfasts, preparing to start walking before the sun rises. He's on the trail by 5:30, hiking by headlamp in the pre-dawn grey. The forest is different at this hour. Quieter, cooler. Birds are just beginning their dawn songs. The world feels fresh, unused, waiting for the day to begin. As the sun rises, painting the eastern sky pink and orange, John reaches a vista and stops to watch. The valleys below are filled with morning mist. The mountains emerge gradually from shadow, catching the first light on their ridges. It's beautiful in a way that midday hiking never is. Everything soft and new and full of promise. The morning miles pass quickly in the cool air. John makes good progress, covering 10 miles by noon. Then he finds a shelter, Bryant Ridge Shelter, and stops for a long siesta. Several other hikers have the same idea, all of them resting through the hottest hours of the day. John lies on the shelter platform, reading a book he picked up in the last town, dozing occasionally, just letting his body rest while the sun is highest. While the temperature is most oppressive, outside the forest bakes in the heat. Inside the shelter, it's cooler, bearable. Around 4 in the evening, when the temperature drops slightly, he starts walking again. The evening miles are pleasant, the worst of the heat past. He walks until almost dark, reaching another shelter as dusk settles over the forest. The new rhythm works. Early morning miles, midday rest, evening miles. It requires discipline, going to sleep early so he can wake before dawn. But it's worth it to avoid the brutal midday heat. The days blur together again. Wake in darkness, walk through dawn, rest in midday heat. Walk through evening, sleep early. The pattern repeating, the miles accumulating. Around the end of June, John notices more excitement among the hikers he encounters. People checking their guidebooks, doing calculations, talking about the halfway point. The psychological milestone is approaching. The official halfway point of the Appalachian Trail moves slightly each year as the trail is rerouted, but it's somewhere in central Virginia. Around mile 1100, John is approaching it, maybe a week away, maybe less. The anticipation builds. Halfway. Over 1,000 miles walked. Over 1,000 miles still to go. The balance point of the journey. One evening, John reaches a shelter where a celebration is happening. Someone has just crossed the halfway point that afternoon, and they're sharing trail magic they carried in for this purpose. Candy bars for everyone, soda, chips. The shelter is festive. Everyone excited about this milestone. How far for you? Someone asked John. He checks his guidebook. Maybe 3 more days. Maybe 4. See you at the halfway point, man. Congratulations in advance. The next 3 days pass in anticipation. John walks his usual miles, maintains his heat avoidance routine, but his mind is focused on halfway, on the milestone approaching. And then, on a warm July afternoon, he reaches it. A simple sign beside the trail. Appalachian Trail, halfway point. 1,094 miles from Springer Mountain. 1,094 miles to Katahdin. John stops, drops his pack, just looks at the sign. Halfway. He's halfway to Maine. Emotions well up, unexpected and strong, pride, gratitude, disbelief. He's walked over 1,000 miles. His body has carried him over 1,000 miles through the mountains. From Georgia to here, to this spot in central Virginia, and he has to do it all again, the same distance, all over again. Before reaching Katahdin, the thought is both encouraging and daunting. He's proven he can walk this far, but he has to keep doing it every day for at least 2 more months. Other hikers are at the halfway point, everyone taking photos, everyone celebrating. Sarah is there, having arrived that morning. Fast Eddie is there, Songbird, Weatherman, and several others, whose faces have become familiar over 2 months of shared journey. They take a group photo, the halfway crew, all of them grinning despite their exhaustion, despite their dirty clothes and overgrown beards and sun-weathered faces. All of them halfway to Maine. John takes his solo photo with the sign, trying to smile naturally, trying to capture how he feels in this moment. The picture will show a lean, bearded hiker with tired eyes and strong legs. It won't show the internal transformation, the way the trail has changed him from the inside out. But he'll remember. He'll always remember what halfway means. The group camps at the shelter near the halfway point, turning it into a celebration. Someone has a harmonica, someone else has cards. Stories are shared, memories of the trail so far. The first painful days in Georgia, the Smokies, the Grayson Highlands, the heat of Virginia summer. What's been your favorite part? Someone asks. Answers vary. Rocky Top, Klingman's Dome, Max Patch, the Wild Ponies. Everyone has their own highlights, their own moments that stand out. When the question reaches John, he thinks for a moment. All of it, he says finally. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts, maybe. They're all part of why this matters. People nod, understanding. The difficulty is part of the value. Easy things don't transform you. As darkness falls and the celebration quiets, John lies in his sleeping bag, thinking about halfway, about the 1,000 miles behind and the 1,000 ahead, about how far he's come, not just in distance, but in every other way that matters. He's not the same person who started at Springer Mountain. That person was uncertain, anxious, carrying too much weight, both physical and emotional. This person, the one lying in a shelter at the halfway point, is stronger, quieter, more confident, more at peace with himself and the world. The trail has done this. The daily walking, the simple living, the constant presence required by each moment. The trail has stripped away everything unnecessary and shown him who he actually is underneath. And there's more to come. Virginia still stretches ahead, another couple 100 miles before the state line. Then the mid-Atlantic states, passing quickly. Then New England, where the trail gets harder, but also feels like the end is approaching. Then Maine, brutal and beautiful. And finally Katahdin. He can see it now. Not clearly, not in detail, but he can see himself finishing. Standing on top of Katahdin, having walked all the way from Georgia. It's no longer impossible. It's just long. Just a matter of continuing what he's been doing, one day at a time, until the miles run out. But that's weeks away still, maybe 2 months, maybe more. Right now, there's just this, halfway. 1,000 miles complete. 1,000 miles to go, perfectly balanced between beginning and end. The forest breathes around the shelter. The summer night is warm and alive with insect song. The stars shine overhead, the same stars that have accompanied him since Georgia. And John sleeps halfway to his goal, grateful for every mile that brought him here, ready for every mile that will carry him forward. The journey continues, always continues, north through Virginia, through the states, beyond. toward that distant mountain in Maine, halfway, the midpoint, the pivot, the moment of looking back at how far he's come and looking forward at how far he has yet to go. But also right here, right now, exactly where he needs to be, one day at a time, 1 mile at a time, one step at a time. The trail continues. John continues with it. And slowly, steadily, impossibly, the dream of walking to Maine becomes more real with each passing day. Halfway to Katahdin, halfway to completion, halfway to whatever waits at the end of this long, beautiful, transformative journey through the mountains. The journey continues, and John continues with it, one step at a time, always north, always forward, always walking toward the end that no longer feels quite so far away.